Imagine a world where Squidward never met SpongeBob, no jellyfish, no Krusty Krab shows, and maybe no script, or would
had never existed. For once, your source of misery and depression are finally gone. Just you, the clarinet, and peace. You're living the life you've always wanted.
Squidward is technically one of the
Squidward wakes up in the morning.
That a lot of people
it's quiet,
don't really
no interruption,
like.
no chaos. Just some birds chirping in the distance. Bikini Bottom seems brighter this way. Job at the Krusty Krab still sucks, but it's bearable, because at least nobody pesters you at work. Squidward finally gets the time to focus, to create, to be the artist he always thought he could be. For the first time in who knows how long, Squidward is completely alone. No SpongeBob and his weird antics. No one follows him around anytime.
Like,
but somehow
what if Squidward never met SpongeBob?
He starts talking
what
to
if SpongeBob never been living by
arguing
Squidward?
With paintings,
how
yelling
would
at the air. Why?
That's what I always
because
think
in this
about.
world, SpongeBob never moved in next door, never worked at the Krusty Krab, and never ruined a single moment of Squidward's day. Every second Squidward remembers, this was supposed to be the perfect life. Because if SpongeBob was truly the one ruining Squidward's life, then taking him out of the picture should fix everything, right?
Hey, if it was true that if SpongeBob did left and Squidward never met SpongeBob, would it fix the problem of Squidward's meanness? But it probably won't.
But before we dive deeper, we need to quickly understand one thing. Who is Squidward Q Tentacles, really? On the surface, Squidward's a pretty simple guy. He's grumpy, he hates his job, he hates his neighbors, sometimes plays the clarinet in his free time, badly. Squidward thinks he's a genius, like artistic genius, but no one really cares.
Squidward made his art about
himself.
sarcasm,
and you will find a man full of resentment. A guy who once had ambition to be a respected artist,
That's
a
why
musician,
when you look at Squidward art, it's him. He made the art himself, and then expect people to pay him for art of himself. No one gonna pay you money for that.
Instead, he's stuck at a dead-end job, paid in pennies, surrounded by people he can't stand, and worst of all, he suffers from it.
Stop blaming other people for your problems.
But is any of that true?
And then everybody
there
else
has to be a big reason why Squidward never leaves, never risks, never climbs out of the life he hates. And this is what makes the question so interesting. In the episode The Original Fry Cook, we see this even more clearly. When Jim, the legendary former fry cook, comes back, Squidward is shaken. Not because Jim is back, but because Jim actually left. Jim made it out. Jim became something. And Squidward stayed behind. Still stuck behind that cash register. That moment isn't about jealousy.
Because Jim made out the Krusty Krab
deep, bitter regret.
And made out
the kind that eats at you year after year.
And
that's the version of Squidward we meet
in
in episode 1. Not a monster, not a villain, just a guy who thought he would be more by now and has no idea how to fix it. Squidward represents something a lot of people feel. Settling. Realizing life didn't turn out the way you'd hoped and starting to wonder, what did I do wrong? But since the very beginning of this life every single day. It sounds dramatic, but think about it. From day one, SpongeBob is in Squidward's face. He's pestering Squidward on a daily basis. At work, at home, at the grocery store, he is the annoying neighbor and coworker. And what if that's not just annoying? What if it's also destructive? Most people would think that SpongeBob is the cause of Squidward's depression and failure, not just by being loud or annoying, but by breaking down Squidward's mental state over time. Squidward can't focus on his art, can't find peace on his day off, he can't even do his hobby without troubles. Every attempt at happiness is hijacked by SpongeBob's well-meaning chaos. Even if Squidward tries to quit his job or move away, something will always drag him back, and usually SpongeBob is right there in the middle of it. Some fans go even further, saying that Squidward is stuck in a loop that Mr. Krabs, SpongeBob, and even Bikini Bottom itself keep him trapped in. He quits his job, only to crawl back. He tries to follow his dreams, only to get laughed off stage. He looks for peace in his home, only to be met with chaos later. It's like the universe itself refuses to let Squidward win. But here's where it gets
that
really
end
dark.
of
What if
sorrow.
Mr. Krabs wants it that way? There's a theory that Mr.
Wait, what?
Krabs purposely exploits Squidward because he knows Squidward is desperate enough to keep working for almost nothing. Krabs has hired other people over the years, like Patrick, Larry, even Karen,
Definitely.
but no one else sticks. Why? Because they won't tolerate the abuse. But Squidward, for whatever reason, does. And if
Why? That made me think that Squidward is somebody who just dumb. Girl, how you gonna take the abuse and everything, but with Squidward he hates so much, but instead of Squidward leave, he stay. Come on, bro.
Krabs keeps Squidward stuck, unhappy, broke, and hopeless, then he'll never
True.
leave. He will never become something
He never
bigger.
will.
He will never do what Jim,
even
the original
if
Fry
Squidward
Cook, did
tried
and escape.
to make
That's not
something of
just a funny
himself,
cartoon
he
pattern.
still never
That's
leave.
emotional manipulation. That's control. And if all of that is true, then maybe SpongeBob isn't just annoying. Maybe he's part of the system holding Squidward down. Then again, if SpongeBob was really the one thing ruining his life, then taking him out of the picture should fix everything, right?
It should.
Then, let's see.
Never worked at the Krusty Krab, never knocked on Squidward's door asking him to go jellyfishing or blow bubbles or build snowmen in July.
Or do anything.
What would Squidward's life actually look like? As far as the show goes, we have seen 3 big possibilities for the outcome. The first one being, maybe Squidward will actually be successful. Without SpongeBob constantly interrupting him, maybe Squidward finally has the space to focus, doing what he always wanted, to become an artist. He pours himself into his art, practices his clarinet religiously, he can start applying to galleries, auditions, maybe even land a gig or 2.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. You're not wrong.
He starts to build a real career. He's not rich, but he's respected, maybe even fulfilled.
Yeah, respect
In the episode The Algae's Always Greener, we catch a glimpse of an alternate reality where Squidward works for Plankton. This version of Squidward appears more content and successful, suggesting that different circumstances could lead to a happier existence for him. Without SpongeBob's antics, Squidward might have found a more satisfying career path. Sounds nice, right? The second possibility is that Squidward becomes even more miserable. Without SpongeBob in his life, Squidward becomes lonelier than ever. The thing about Squidward is that we often see him always demanding to be left alone. He doesn't want anybody to enter his personal bubble. But ironically, we've seen him go into a spiral every time he's left alone.
Oh, yeah. Cause he's wrong. Like when Squidward is by himself in an empty space with nothing to do, he ends up spiraling out to a point where he needs friends. He needs the passion of love.
SpongeBob and Patrick. It doesn't take long before he gets fed up with the mediocrity of regular people's lives. He soon hallucinates SpongeBob antics and starts copying them. He even thinks that it's actually fun to do stupid stuff like that sometimes. That episode is an eye-opening experience. It suggests that Squidward doesn't just hate chaos itself, he needs it to feel something. Maybe deep down in his heart, he knew that he enjoyed crazy stuff, but his ego was too high to even simply admit it. Want a more extreme example? Take a look at the episode SB-129. In that episode, Squidward ends up in a dimension where he's totally alone. No SpongeBob, no Patrick, just nothing. At first, he loved it. Total silence, no noise, no chaos. But then it hits him. The silence isn't peace, it's isolation. He starts losing it, talking to himself, screaming into the void. It's honestly one of the trippiest things the show has ever done. It suggests that even if Squidward thinks he wants to be alone, he actually doesn't. Squidward wants to be embraced by the others around him, but more often than not, he always pushes everyone that tries to enter his bubble, leaving him to be lonely again and again.
Can't.
The last and most convincing possibility, in my opinion, is that even if Squidward never met SpongeBob in his life,
no one to talk to,
nothing would change.
And all you got yourself
SpongeBob is not
like,
Squidward's problem.
what am I doing?
Squidward is Squidward's problem. Even in episodes where SpongeBob is gone or out of the picture, Squidward doesn't magically become happier. He still hates his job, still complains, he still sabotages his own chances at success.
But why?
He blames SpongeBob because it's easy. But take SpongeBob away and
we must face reality.
Level noise. The sad truth is, SpongeBob might be exactly what Squidward needs, because he reflects everything Squidward isn't anymore. SpongeBob is joy, passion, optimism, drive.
True.
He's what Squidward used to have, or at least wanted
Definitely.
to have. The worst part isn't that SpongeBob is annoying, It's that he's happy for no reason, and that drives Squidward crazy. SpongeBob...
It do. It drives Squidward crazy because Squidward hate that SpongeBob always happy and not once miserable. Alright, now in some episodes, SpongeBob is miserable, but it only when he loses something or something deep in his heart, it's broken.
finds ridiculous, like jellyfishing, blowing bubbles, even going to work. To Squidward, this looks childish. But that joy is something Squidward misses more than he admits. SpongeBob also represents effort.
But
he tries,
instead
he
of
fails,
Squidward
he tries
showing
again.
it,
That's
he
the
just
part
don't show
Squidward
it.
hates the most,
But
because he
everybody
stopped trying
knows
a long
he
time
misses
ago. Watching SpongeBob push through everything with a smile is like holding a mirror up to Squidward's own apathy. It's uncomfortable, sure, but it keeps you from being totally lost. But here's the thing, SpongeBob never gives up on Squidward. No matter how cold or dismissive he gets, SpongeBob just keeps trying to include him,
by yourself,
laughing
you
with
think feed the heart.
How does someone see value in you even when you don't? And that's a hard pill to swallow.
And even if SpongeBob or Patrick leave,
SpongeBob
will
is the
still
reason
feel
Squidward's life fell apart. Mr. Krabs is
depressed
exploiting him.
and
Bikini
still
Bottom
feel
itself
like
is rigged against him.
He can't
But let's
do
take a breath
nothing
and
without
actually
SpongeBob or
ask,
Patrick.
does any of that make sense? Let's start with SpongeBob.
I don't get it.
Has SpongeBob's constant presence destroyed Squidward's chance at happiness? Sure, SpongeBob is loud.
No,
he's
right?
chaotic. He's always around. But when you really break it down, does Squidward ever improve when SpongeBob isn't there?
No.
Take a look at episodes like Squid's Day Off, where SpongeBob is mostly out of the picture. Squidward spirals anyway. He overthinks, he panics, he literally hallucinates SpongeBob. So no, SpongeBob's not the core problem. He's a trigger, maybe, but not the cause. What about the idea that Mr. Krabs is actively keeping Squidward stuck? That one, honestly, has legs. It's true that Squidward has worked at the Krusty Krab longer than anyone else.
Hey, it is true. Squidward have worked there longer than anyone. The crazy thing about it, Squidward worked there ever since Jimmy, I don't know his name, but ever since he started working there, Squidward been there ever since then. Like, there's no way Squidward ever left that Krusty Krab. Like, he could have been left, but he wasn't focusing, and his mindset was always stuck. Like, I need to put that.
So the original Fry
Cook,
Cook, we find out he's been there long before SpongeBob, before Jim, maybe even since the place opened. He's never gotten a raise. He gets paid pennies. It's a sad life for sure. The thing is, Krabs isn't the only one at fault. Squidward's also at fault for letting Krabs take advantage of him. Sometimes he even admitted it clearly.
$5.
But the episode that really blows my mind is Goodbye Krabby Patty.
Squidward says something that hits
hard to me.
But SpongeBob still made
17 years as a cashier isn't enough to qualify for anything else.
That's crazy. How someone who worked there less than you make more than you?
That's a brutal line.
That don't make no sense.
It shows how much he believes he's worthless. Like his experience doesn't mean anything. It's almost as if Squidward himself believes that even if he wanted to, he can't get another job. He's just stuck there forever. But over the years of this show, we've seen him try to leave Krusty Krab. Not just once.
But
Can You Spare a Dime, he quits
every
and
time
ends up homeless.
Squidward leaves, he ends up homeless,
and in
or
Chum
end up
Caverns,
coming
he works
right
for
back to
Plankton.
Krusty
Still
Krab.
gets treated like trash. And every time he comes crawling back to Krusty Krab, begging for the job he always hated, not because he wants to,
And
because he has to.
then when he go
Krabs
to work
doesn't
for
even
it,
have to beg
then
him
he
to
start
come
being
back.
miserable,
He knows Squidward
depressed,
will
and start
crawl
feeling
back.
like,
But here's
how
another thought.
did I get
If Squidward was actually a
this
bright and
situation?
diligent guy like
But
SpongeBob, would
It's
life be
his
easier
fault.
for him?
It's Squidward's fault.
Because let's
it's
be
Squidward's
honest,
fault for
Squidward
him
isn't
getting
just a
in the
bitter guy in a
situation he's
vacuum.
in right now.
He's a bitter guy in a town that doesn't respect him, and maybe never did. Bikini Bottom is full of loud, eccentric characters, but the one thing they all seem to agree
You know what I like about you? What? Nothing.
in slimy dancing, Squidward gets mocked for his choreography, while SpongeBob gets cheered for
you
doing
ain't wrong
nearly
about
the
that.
same moves. In Squidward, even after trying to perform, Squidward still gets heckled by everyone. They would rather cheer for a doll of Squidward to be precise. People
But
hate him
it's
not for
controlled
anything
by
he did,
SpongeBob.
but simply because
Y'all don't
he's
get it.
Squidward.
SpongeBob can
This
do it.
isn't about talent, it's
But
about perception.
the same
Bikini
thing
Bottom
as
doesn't judge
Squidward,
based on
and
skill,
still
it
get
judges
cheered.
based on likability.
But when
And
Squidward do it,
with all
he
his
get
sarcasm and
booed and
bitterness,
everything.
just isn't likable. So no matter how hard he works or how skilled he is, the town shrugs, or worse, they laugh. Now, imagine living in that town every day. You try to do things right. You have hobbies, passions, and
True.
ambitions, but
Yep.
none of that matters because people have already written you off. That's what Squidward's dealing with. And it's not just frustrating, it's soul-crushing. It's the same reason people in real life burn out. When you're in an environment that only uplifts the bubbly, the loud, the easy-to-digest personalities, the
Yeah.
quiet gets lost, or worse, punished for not being palatable enough. So what does
Not
all this
being
mean?
powerful,
The fan
happy,
theories
or
aren't completely
passionate
right,
about
but
anything.
they're not wrong either. SpongeBob isn't the villain, he's just the trigger. Krabs is definitely taking advantage, and Bikini Bottom? It's not made for someone like Squidward. But in the end,
situations that, it's hard to come out of. I completely understand what fire looks like and smells like. I do not have to touch it.
Anything where you have to say, I don't want to get myself in a situation, that's the situation. Your first date with Rachel, you use the same soundbite.
Because he doesn't trust himself.
Right? Because you'd be surprised how much trust in yourself is extended.
he blames everyone else, but deep down he knows that's not the whole story.
You need
That's
to
the
blame
internal
yourself,
war a
Squidward.
lot of people fight every day, and that's why so many older fans suddenly relate to Squidward when they rewatch the show. He's a painfully accurate metaphor for mental health struggles, especially the quiet, slow kind that creeps up over time. And that hits hard, because when you're in a dark place, joy doesn't feel inspiring. It feels alienating, like a reminder of what you've lost. That's why SpongeBob is so triggering for him. Not because he's annoying, but because he's functioning. He has energy, hope, goals, everything
Yeah, everything's that Squidward wanna be. But Squidward not putting that work in it. He's not putting that passion in to strive more. He's not doing that. He's not. He blaming everybody for not succeeding. But in reality, it's Squidward who's not succeeding.
used to have before the bitterness took over. But the real tragedy? Squidward knows he's not okay.
Now, I don't know what to do.
And that's what makes his character so relatable, because real life doesn't always offer an easy solution either. Some people need therapy, some need a new job, some need time, help, or just someone to listen. Squidward, he needs a break. A real one. Not a vacation, not an episode off, a break from the loop he's trapped in, and maybe someone who sees his pain and doesn't laugh it off. And if I'm being honest with you, I wouldn't know what to do either if I was in Squidward's shoes. Let me put it this way. What if Squidward was the main character of the show? Imagine SpongeBob SquarePants told through his eyes. Not as a joyful comedy, but as a low-key tragedy. A story about a guy who had big dreams, got stuck in a small life, and has to navigate the crushing weight of watching everyone around him thrive while he stays invisible. It wouldn't be slapstick comedy. It would be dry, dark, ironic. A painfully funny portrait of artistic failure, retail despair, and the quiet horror of waking up to the same dead-end job every day while your neighbor yells, "I'm ready!" at 6 a.m. And the most heartbreaking part? You'd root for him. If the show was framed from Squidward's perspective, his inner monologue, his disappointments, his tiny victories, we'd see the cracks in real time. Every moment SpongeBob...
We will. If everything happened when he say, we'll actually see Squidward actually cracking. We'll actually see Squidward actually realizing it's not anyone, it's him.
Quirky underwater town. It'd be the backdrop of Squidward's slow collapse. A town that laughs at his pain, ignores his effort, and claps for people doing half as much with twice the love. Honestly, it would still be a great show, just not one for kids. So, maybe the only reason we don't see Squidward as the protagonist is because we're used to shows focusing on people who win, people who smile, people who bounce back. But Squidward's story, that's for the person who feels stuck, who doesn't have it all figured out, who isn't the chosen one or the favorite or even the funny sidekick. That's why it hits so close to home, because we all know what it feels like to be the background character in our own story, hoping one day someone notices. So, what if Squidward had never met SpongeBob? Would his life have been better? Or exactly the same? And after breaking it all down, only the bitter truth remains. Maybe he would have had more peace, maybe less chaos, maybe even a little more progress on his art or music. But that doesn't mean he would have been happy.
Maybe
because
Squidward
SpongeBob didn't really do
really
anything to Squidward's
focus
life.
and really
He
realize
just exposed
it's
it.
him
Squidward was
who's the
already
problem.
miserable, already insecure and stuck way before he met SpongeBob at Conch Street. He's not Squidward's problem. He's Squidward's mirror. And sometimes those people we think are ruining our lives, they're actually the only ones paying attention. And that's why
I want you to know you're not alone.
Because if SpongeBob disappeared, Squidward would finally have to look at his life and realize the only thing stopping him was himself. And yeah, it's a little heavy for a cartoon about sea creatures, but maybe that's what makes SpongeBob SquarePants so good. It gives us characters that seem simple, but they reflect real things. Fear of failure, regret, the pain of being overlooked, and the weird comfort of blaming someone else for your own limits. And that's exactly what SpongeBob really gave Squidward. Someone to keep him from totally slipping into—
I have problems, Bart! Scary problems! I see 2 therapists! They email each other about me! And I'm on drugs! Focusing to help me focus! Somnicrank to help me sleep!
I hope you take those with food.
And don't forget Intrigonal to lift my spirits! Because they're low, Bart! Ever so low!
Someone who, in the weirdest, loudest, most SpongeBob way possible, cared. Because at the end of the day, Squidward isn't trapped by SpongeBob.
So we found out how Squidward's life would have been if he never met SpongeBob. And his life without SpongeBob, without Patrick, without the normal Bikini Bottom, Critter, and Mr. Krab, would be horrible. And we found out how Squidward all blame everybody, but in reality it's him who's not in the concert. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification bell. This is your boy, we ask Elsa signing out.